The idea that sparked the hotspotting business way back in 2006 came from those days when I was working as a freelance journalist, frequently writing articles for Money magazine, and I suggested to them that I should do a series of articles on why certain areas outperformed the market in real estate and why they did. So I was researching the characteristics of those locations and writing about in a series of magazine articles. It all answered the most common question that I was getting at the time, which was, where's the best place to buy? Tell me where to buy in this vast country of Australia. And in the course of thinking about that question and researching the articles for Money magazine, the idea came to me that there might be a business in it, that people were wanting to know where to buy. And they were wanting someone to tell them where to buy and why, because they didn't have the resources or the time or the wherewithal to actually do that research and find out for themselves. I thought that there needed to be a better way to answer the question of where's the best place to buy, because most of the information that people were getting was via media, not always reliable, but most of what they get in media is backward looking. It tells them what has happened in the recent past, and what I've come to know to be true over the years of researching markets and analysing markets is that the past doesn't necessarily inform the future, that change is the only constant in real estate. So we were looking for forward-looking indicators, and in the course of doing that research for those series of articles on the outperforming markets, I started to notice that there were common characteristics that recurred in those markets that did better than the average market. The very first report that we did with the new hotspotting business was a report called How to Identify Hotspots, and that evolved out of that research I'd done for those magazine articles, noticing that there were common characteristics in the areas that had outperformed. But what I did realise is that the outperforming markets had more than one characteristic in play. It wasn't just, for example, it wasn't enough to be a popular sea change location, because Australia abounds with them. There are thousands of them. What distinguishes the outperforming ones from the ones that don't do so well? And the answer to that question was there were other factors in play, like there was new transport links had been built to make that area more accessible from the big city, or there was new businesses that had been created, creating major new jobs nodes. There were employment factors in play. So the ones that really outperformed had 3 or 4 of these indicators that created hotspots in place. So I developed a theory around that and put it into a report called How to Identify Hotspots, with some case studies, and say, here are the factors in play in this market. Here are the 4 or 5 characteristics that are happening here that make it an outperformer. Those early days of starting the business in 2006, I was working out of the garage in my home in Maleny in the Sunshine Coast hinterland. I do recall that the previous owners hadn't finished developing the 2-car garage, and it had a dirt floor. So I used one side of the garage to put in my computer and my desk and chair, and I started working very hard because the business was just me there. I knew a guy who could do websites, so we created a website, but all the content for the website, all the text on the website, and all the writing and reports was done by me, and I was working 80-hour week to get that business started, to get those reports created, to launch the business. At the same time as still having my previous day job, which was freelance writing, until I got to the point where I felt confident the business was going to work, and I was able to let go of that previous manifestation of income earning and focus totally on hotspotting. Back 20 years ago when I started the business, I went to some of the big PR firms in Brisbane, close to where I was located, to seek support in promoting the business, and no one wanted to take it on because they believed it couldn't work. What I was told back then, in the days when it wasn't common to have an e-commerce website, was that the purpose of a website was to support the business, but the website couldn't be the business. And so they told me that wouldn't work, and so they didn't want to be involved. I thought they were wrong, and it made me work all the harder to prove that they were wrong and make it successful. I realised that we were on a winner and it was going to succeed when I started getting feedback from people that they'd bought reports, they'd followed the advice and were really liking the results they were getting. They were discovering areas that they didn't know much about or hadn't previously thought of, and having examined them for themselves, seeing the possibilities and buying there. And years later we were getting feedback from people saying we've had fantastic growth, so we want to buy more of your reports. When we started getting that repeat business, I knew that we had something that had legs and was going to be a long-lasting, successful business for the future. The core principles behind the longevity and the lasting success of the business, I think one is our independence. We've been fiercely independent, so that the recommendations we make and the places that we recommend people avoid are not influenced by somebody's advertising budget or a major business client who wants to promote a particular area. We've remained fiercely independent of all of that and recommended or not recommended areas without fear or favour. That's been a key factor, but also our reliance on forward-looking indicators, understanding the difference between backward-looking data and forward-looking indicators, and using those to tell people about areas that aren't yet hot but will be, we believe, in the future. And that's the difference. There's no point in telling people about an area that's hot already, that everyone knows about. The whole basis of the business has been identifying the future growth areas before they become hot. And sometimes we've been telling people about areas that have been poor performers for the previous 10 years. And an example of that was Perth, maybe 5-6 years ago. When we first started putting Perth into our hotspots reports, it had 10 years of falling property prices, and people said, why would you be recommending this location that doesn't show price growth? And we said, because we believe it's about to change. We had the same reaction when we featured the Sunshine Coast around the same time, because it also had 10 years without growth. But we knew that the Sunshine Coast was about to become a nation leader because of $20 billion worth of infrastructure investment that was happening there. So it was those forward-looking indicators that we focused on, and caused us to recommend areas that some people thought were duds, but we knew that their future was going to be different. When I look back on those days in the garage with the dirt floor, sitting there by myself, working ridiculous hours, I'm proud of the fact that the business has not only survived, but it's thrived, and particularly in the last, say, 3 years since Tim Graham came on board and others. We expanded the business, we expanded the team, we grew the revenue, we also grew the costs, of course, and that was a leap of faith. So we were kind of comfortable where we were, doing okay, but we decided it was time to go to another level, that the potential of the business wasn't being realised. And so I'm kind of proud that we got to that point. I'm proud of the fact that I had the foresight to bring good new people into the business who I knew were going to take it to another level, and 3 years on, very, very happy with what's happened with the business and the results that we've got, and feeling justified in all those decisions. I think the next chapter of Hotspotting is even more exciting than the last 5 years or the last 20 years, because I think the business is really starting to realise the potential fundamentally through intelligent use of technology. I've got a core belief that human judgment will always be the key thing in making good decisions about real estate, particularly about where you should buy. But using AI intelligently to make that process more analytical, faster, more in depth, I think is an intelligent way to use technology without losing sight of the fact that human judgment will always be ultimately the thing that makes the final decision. And we've developed techniques and formulas like our empirical formula to help us to do that. The proof is in the results that we've had. We have so many customers who have been with us a long time and stay with us because they've followed our advice and got really good results, and they want to keep replicating that. And I think we're going to get better and better at it by intelligently using good people and good technological resources. I think our recurring success is repeat business. It's always the best kind of business, the best kind of marketing, isn't it? Repeat business from satisfied customers. And I think one of the reasons why we have had so many happy customers is because we value add, We don't just present data, we tell people what the data means, and I think that's the core difference that we've always had as a business. Not many people do that. In fact, I don't know another business that puts the time and effort and resources that we're in creating hotspot reports. A lot of business, you can spit reports out full of graphs and charts, but there's no analysis, there's no explanation of what all the data means. That's our point of difference, always has been, and I think it will be going forward, because it takes resources, it costs to do that, but we're willing to make that investment to get a better result for our customers, keep them happy and keep coming back. And so we've invested in people as well as technology. We've got a great team, I think the best team of any real estate research company anywhere in Australia. Fantastic team. Tim, Chris, Michelle is fantastic with the production of the reports. We've got Cameron Cusher on board with all his expertise and experience in analysis. And I continue to be a key part of the business as well, with 40 years experience as a writer and researcher on real estate. So we've got a lot to offer in our people resources. We've got a lot of tech savviness in the business now, and we're using that to really good effect to create a portal which is perhaps the best one-stop shop anywhere in Australian real estate. And the beauty of all this is we're only just getting started.